This is the Business Storytelling Show, a top global marketing podcast listened to in more than 100 countries, live streamed on social media, and broadcast on DBTV. Christoph Trapp chats with industry leaders to help your company tell better business stories. Here's today's episode.
Episode 697, my friends. We're moving right along. Today we're going to talk about the word of mouth marketing. What's working today, what's not working. SuzanneReilley.com. She's an expert on the topic. And what's interesting to me is word of mouth marketing sounds like kind of outdated, like you go to Rotary or you go wherever and people talk to each other and that's word of mouth marketing. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. Maybe that's maybe that's networking. I don't know. But what's word of mouth marketing today? When we're all talking to each other, digitally, when we look at each other's digital eyeballs, and what's the role? And why do we focus on that? So I'm very interested to hear Suzanne's answer on those and many, many more questions. I'm really excited to get her on the show here. Suzanne, nice to see you.
Great to see you, Christoph.
We got the fist bump right, and that's usually a sign of a great episode. Now, maybe a little over the top here, my opinion on word of mouth marketing, but certainly it's still a thing. But how, it's been a thing forever and ever, right? I mean, how do people use it today? What's different today? Or maybe it's not different at all.
Well, in my experience, I think that, a lot of people are building online digital brands, but we're still going to talk to each other. So there's still going to be an element either online or off of saying, I had this really great experience with this person or this company, sharing specifics about what was great about it. And so I think regardless of whether we have a digital presence, which most people do, word of mouth marketing is still a thing.
So it's like the overarching thing, right? So like when people say they used to do digital marketing or whatever, right? And now all of a sudden they do marketing because they do all the different channels. And it's like, so if you think of word of mouth marketing, it's really everything. I mean, it could be reviews, could be you and I hopping into, I don't know, Snapchat chat. I'm not even sure that's a thing, but you know what I mean? Like we're chatting somewhere, you're telling me about something, or it could be you and me, as I said earlier, at Rotary, and we're talking about some company, and that's how I hear about him.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the balance also depends on the person. I really believe that there are so many different ways to be successful, and the ways to be most successful are the ways that make sense to you. So I've known coaches from years back who were built a full practice by like meeting people at the bank when people still went to the bank, or like at the grocery store, or just meeting people wherever. And then I guess that goes back to your thing of like, maybe that's networking or maybe but it's sort of like that offline piece. Whereas some people really love having that digital presence. And then I think the word of mouth piece looks different in different spaces. So anyway, I think it can be dominant depending on the business owner and how they like to operate.
Does word of mouth marketing, does that mean it's more authentic than like real other marketing? Do you know what I mean? Like when traditionally when we think about marketing, like we have copywriters and they're coming up with the perfect words to show the brand's value and passion and mission, blah, blah, blah. But, and that's, I don't want to say it's staged, but it can be if it's done, if it's pushed too far. But with word of mouth marketing, it's like, are people more authentic because it's coming from an independent third party, like a customer or something like that? Or is that am I just splitting hairs of the definition of words?
Well, I think word of mouth marketing is one way to express credibility. So, and I believe there are different ways to do that. So, if your friend tells you, hey, I had a good experience with this person, you're likely to trust them. You're likely to go to that person. You're likely to try that person out. Credibility can also be, having a big name behind you, having testimonials, so I think it's one strong way. to express credibility. And then, of course, like you said, is it authentic or not? I think that just always depends on the person, depends on the channel. I mean, if it's your best friend and you're just talking, of course, they're going to give you the best advice. If it's someone who's an affiliate for a product, maybe you vet that a little bit more. You might have you might want to consider that person's motives. Some people are totally authentic. Some people might have an agenda. So I think that can look different in different spaces.
It's interesting to me too when you talk about affiliate marketing. I mean, I do affiliate marketing all the time, and I would say, I don't know, 70% of the time, I don't even give an opinion. I don't even say if that's a good product or a bad product or anything. It's just in an article. Do you know what I mean? So, for example, let's say they were related word of mouth marketing products. In an article, I might just say, here's 10 products that you can consider to step up your word of mouth marketing. But I'm not even going to give you an opinion. I'm not even going to say, this is a good one or this is a bad one. Or, do you know what I mean? It's just like, here's an option. Or like when I did an article on standing desks, same thing. I just said, here's all the different options. I did not test every little thing. So I think people need to pay attention to that certainly as well, how it's presented. Now, tell me about your story a little bit. How did you, I mean, you're a business coach, you talk about word of mouth marketing on your website. Why is that like the headline front and center? Why is that so important to you to help people with that specifically?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think the reason it's front and center is because I am also a copywriter. And so that is something that I heard from a lot of different people. They were coming to me saying that they had built successful businesses on word of mouth, that they had had great success before, and that once they got into the online space, they were just so confused. Like there was just so much information out there, and they weren't sure what they needed to build or where to even start, or if what they had was good. And so, I mean, I'm really supportive of however people want to build, but that was speaking to people who had had a lot of word of mouth success and then wanted help building a digital brand and a seamless user journey.
Really focused on the digital side of things as well. And you talk a lot about your unique story or unique perspectives or whatever it might be. How difficult is that actually to get nowadays? I mean, there's a lot of people that talk about similar things I talk about, but I put my own spin on it, right? Or I live my own story, so to speak. And then there's companies. I mean, some companies have great stories, how they came up with whatever it is they're selling. And some companies have no story at all, right? They're just like, well, we got to make some money. So let's make these widgets, and there's no story. Like, I mean, that's the story. So how do you kind of figure out, I mean, first of all, how important is that? And then second of all, how do you figure out how to use those stories to their advantage?
So in my experience, some people are really great at just saying, okay, I just want to have an income. I just want to make something that makes money at the end. But then I am kind of wired in terms of I believe in joy in the process in my work. And I want to be doing something that I enjoy. That's of course in my experiential wheelhouse. And so I think it depends on the person if you can just sort of put something out there to make money, or if you have to feel that deeper connection to it. And then I think in terms of, if I understand your question correctly, and please rephrase if I don't, but the element of storytelling, I think that really one of the most impactful things in marketing is to be clear on where a person is starting from and where they want to be, and then ethically and truthfully help them get there. And so then in your marketing, you can paint the story of you can resonate with what their current experience is, and then you can tell the story of what their experience in the process of changing could be. And then even more importantly, telling the story of what their future life could look like and really painting that entire picture to help engage them in, um, potentially working with you, but continuing moving forward either way.
What's interesting to me too is like sometimes when company founders, they have a story, and like depending what it is, I mean, they're very, very, I don't know, niche stories, right? And that is the thing they're now going to be talking about forever and ever and ever. And it does take some commitment, right, to be able to do that, or some interest in the topic. I mean, I'm thinking about my topic, talk about business storytelling, content marketing, but it's really very rarely the same story, right? I mean, like today we're talking about word of mouth marketing. Next week we're talking about legal things when it comes to AI and content creation. Last week we talked about how do you collaborate. I mean, they're completely different stories, right? But if you have like one little piece of the pie or whatever, and maybe it's a profitable piece, but how do you stay invested and interested? I mean, is that the whole reason everybody says you have to be passionate about whatever you're doing, or how do you keep telling that story? How do you not get tired of it?
So, in terms of the story, are you talking about the like the business origin story?
I mean, it kind of fits all together a little bit, right? I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes you have a good business origin, a good origin story for a company, and it fits right in with what you're doing. And sometimes it evolves, and you have to kind of talk about whatever that is. But
Yeah.
depending on what the product is, I mean, it could be very niche, right? Like this is like a very defined story that you're going to be talking about over and over and over and over. I mean, how do people? I mean, sure, if you make money, maybe you're fine with it, but like at some point, doesn't get tiring.
Yeah. So I think that's a really important point to bring up because sometimes people either when they're starting out or when they're scaling their business, they're thinking about their niche and thinking about their focus and thinking about what they want their business to be. And the one thing I always recommend is, and especially for people who are multi-talented, who have interest and experience in a lot of different areas, I always say to choose something that you can eat, sleep, and breathe every single day because you're going to be telling the origin story over and over and over again. You're going to be answering the same questions over and over. You're going to be researching the same topics. You're going to be pitching similar things. It's like all day, every day, everything inside your brain is this one topic. And so, I actually had a business in the past that I really did not like discussing that topic every single day. And so I switched to this and I enjoy it a lot more. So I think that's a really important thing to have in mind.
It's something definitely to think about and to keep top of mind on how do you move forward and how do you not get bored and certainly want to make money. But how do you? So then you have your story, you get that all nailed down, you sharing it nicely across the different channels. Maybe you have a good customer experience even. But how do we make sure customers share the story that we actually would like them to share? I mean, it's like sometimes I've seen those things, it's like a game of telephone. I mean, you're trying to do one thing, they have a different experience. Maybe it's not the bad experience necessarily, but it's like you hear the story down the road and you're like, what? That's not, that's what we're known for now.
Yeah, that's also a really great point. I don't think we can entirely control for how people share our stories. I think the best things that we can do are, to bring this totally full circle, is to include elements of story in our messaging and our copy because we know that stories are sticky, they're engaging, we remember them. And so if we have those elements of story woven through our brand messaging, it can help people remember specifics. And then also, when your brand messaging is consistent across channels, and those key elements are repeated in different ways in different places, it helps people remember that. Um, but at the end of the day, yeah, there's nothing perfect when you're working with humans, which we're humans and our customers are humans. And so I think it makes sense to have a little grace about things not looking right all the time once they're out of your hands.
I mean, especially if it's a positive experience, who cares, right? If it's exactly the brand message or whatever. I
Yeah.
mean, that's kind of how I look at it. I mean, there's related stories and related experiences. So I know you talk a lot about, smart business owners come to you, and it's very easy to still get lost in the digital jungle, right? And I mean, I even see the same thing for me. I mean, I'm working on one thing, I'm finding something, and I'm going to keep going down that rabbit hole until I get to the bottom of it, and maybe there's no bottom of it, right?
Oh,
So
yes.
how do people that come to you, first of all, where do they get stuck? What's like the most common rabbit hole I guess you see, or staying with the jungle, right? Where they get lost or tangled in the jungle, and then how do you like get them to focus?
Yeah, so I think, everybody is a little different on where they get stuck. So, in a general sense, there's the meeting people, there's the nurturing the relationship, and there's sharing paid offers. And so it's usually at some point in the funnel that people get stuck on. They're like, either they don't have enough new people coming in, or they have a ton of people but they're not converting. And so I have found that that is a little bit different for different people. And so basically I will talk to them to try to figure out the exact place that things are going wrong, and then try to uncover the reason that things are going wrong and try to help them unkink that from whatever root issue is going on. And so I think what business owners tend to do on their own is like, without that objectivity or without that nuanced specificity, they'll say like, okay, so many people came through this page and it's not converting like I want, and they just like scrap the whole brand. like um and I definitely don't recommend that. It's so much better to pinpoint the specific area where issues are happening and fix that. And yeah, just be specific in that way. And I think usually when they come to me, they have a sense of what's going wrong, but they're also just like, I don't know, please tell me what to do kind of thing. Like they've tried everything themselves, and like we all do. And then they're like, I don't know, I'm just stuck. Like, what's the problem here?
I think it's an art and science, right? How you get
Yeah.
people to interact with you online, how you get people to move through the funnel, what content works here and what content works there. I mean, over the years, I've seen so many campaigns, like, top of the funnel content they were trying to use in the bottom of the funnel. I mean, of
Yeah.
course, nobody's going to convert. It's not the right message. It doesn't make sense to them at that stage. So you have to think about, how do you do that? How do you move things together? The other thing I noticed, I mean, even with christophtrap.com, right? I mean, like the first few years, I mean, it was just a blog. It didn't really do much, but today I'm not going to be standing here and saying, oh, it's a money maker, but it makes money. But it makes money because it's been around for a while. Like, I never stopped. And, certainly content has gotten better over the years. But there is a certain level of, you just have to keep going, right? You just have to keep doing. I mean, even the podcast, right? This is what, I don't even know what it is, 697, episode 697. The first few episodes, they weren't that great. Didn't make any money early on, right? So it's like, how long do people need to keep trying things? Is that a problem? And they're like, let's just be done with this, try the next thing. How often does that kind of discussion come up?
That is a really tough consideration. And I think I really like to help people just demystify the whole online business space so they have a better understanding of the elements that are important for them to have in place, so they can have a sense of what's going well, what's not going so well. And so if they are continuing on, they understand where their business is at and how specifically they can improve. And yeah, they just have a better, there's nothing worse than not understanding the landscape of something. Like, I'm not just going to open the hood of my car and start like pulling at stuff. Like that's what, but I think that's how a lot of people are in their business, because they're still learning, because they're still new, especially with online business. And so I think if they can understand the framework and, one of the frameworks, and have a sense of what can work and why, it really empowers them to understand the work that's needed to be done, so they can decide if they want to continue on that process. Because also what I see happening a lot is, the headlines are so shiny, right? It says like, earn X amount of dollars in 20 minutes or in one webinar or in an afternoon. But then there's kind of a lot of work that goes with that. And so I really, there are a lot of people who come to me who are just absolute workhorses and will do anything. And they're ready to do any amount of work for the long haul, but they get sidetracked because they think that they're supposed to have gotten instant success in 24 hours, or have this first go be just a total smash success. And then I think they get just a little off track of like, well, wait, I thought this was supposed to be super fast. I didn't need it to be, and then they sort of start to get a little doubtful or just like not understanding. And so, yeah, I like to just help people see around corners and what can happen fast or what might be happen longer, and really empower them to have that knowledge going forward.
I think it was the Marketing Demystified podcast with Jen Mancusi over at GrowGetter, my day job, where somebody, I don't remember who it was, may have been Drew Nicer actually, who said this. And it was like 80% of CEOs say they know marketing or whatever, or they understand marketing, and only really 20% have any experience in marketing. So it's a real problem, right? Because you have executives who, they became successful because they have opinions, right? And they've done stuff that works. So if they say, oh, this is how you do marketing, but it is actually getting harder and harder, in my opinion, right? How to do marketing well, how to get in front of people, how to do word of mouth marketing. So really appreciate that you came on today, kind of share with us what people can do, like the last minute here or so. Tell us who should reach out to you. I know we kind of had some of that in the show already, but like, who's your perfect client? Who can you help the most?
Yeah, so my perfect client is that type of person who is willing to do the work. They know that business is a long-term thing, and they want that objective mind to help them see things more clearly than they can see themselves, and to help them pinpoint, help them celebrate what's going well, help them pinpoint those areas of opportunity that could be stronger, and just really be there with them, to make really solid traction at whatever pace they choose. That's really, that's a great fit for the work that I do.
You have to be able and willing to do the work, whatever that means. Doesn't mean we always have to work harder, but sometimes we
Correct.
have to work smarter. Suzanne, it was great to have you on the show, and we're out.
Thanks for tuning in. Please rate and review the Business Storytelling Show on your favorite podcast platform